work, now the world's on mine. Grinding. Pulling out, we're ripping out batches. They be trying to sit in my practice, clip them like latches. These hoes really on ratchet, bad shit. Throw it back, am I gon' catch it? Snatch it, with the drinks already. Bass gon' shake, but my hands stay steady. Nightmare, someone tell fans I'm Freddy. On my eyes pale white like a phantom. Betty gon' drop, on stick, get it, don't flop. Run, pick it up, don't stop till I'm running my block. Got a sinister thought, never will I ever give up till my enemies rot. And my set we all pop, whole crew sitting on top, drove straight out the lot. Getting paid like a lot, wardrobe shit you can't cop. I done put them in a hall for the start, give it all for the art, for the charts and the hoes and the fame. When it came too far now, to the porch of my fortune, I'm in it for the long run, I'm staying. Still on my pain, still in my prime, playing this game, money on mine, get on my lane, get in that line. I done put that work, now the world's all mine, grinding. Myself, friends switched up, I'm still on myself. Old me's dead, I'm killing myself. When the wire hits, might drop 10 on myself. Calm, shit, I'm on a little too strong. Put me in the middle of a storm, never like shit calm. Only ever like shit bomb, getting hot, trying to right my wrongs. I'll be better with a passion, cash in, never want to be relaxing. Maxing, trap rappers, I be taxing. Cash in, I'ma put them in a casket. Basket, trying to get up on the track. I laugh, your shit's whack, every single word is cap. No cap, my shit slap, no debating, I'm a masker. Ask her, that's fast. When I pull it, gone fast and cast it, just blast. On stick, get it, don't flop. Run, pick it up, don't stop till I'm running my block. Got a sinister thought, never will I ever give up till my enemies rot. And my set we all pop, whole crew sitting on top, drove straight out the lot. Getting paid like a lot, wardrobe shit you can't cop. I done put them in a hall for the start, give it all for the art, for the charts and the hoes and the fame. When it came too far now, to the porch of my fortune, I'm in it for the long run, I'm staying. Still on my pain, still in my prime, playing this game, money on mine, get on my lane, get in that line. I done put that work, now the world's all mine, grinding.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to have you back here. Welcome to the Gaming America's Q4 meetup. I'm adjusting my microphone here because I'm excited to share that we have almost 2,000 viewers on YouTube queuing up for this session. Wow. But yeah, we're thrilled to have you join us for what marks a special moment in our journey because this is the final meetup in our current format after 4 incredible years of insightful discussions, industry updates, and invaluable connections. The Gaming America's quarterly meetup will stop this year. Nevertheless, as we look ahead for 2025, we are excited to share that we will be refreshing this format to bring you an even more dynamic and engaging experience. But don't worry, guys. Your trusted experts, Jeremy, Bill, and Martin, will still be here, providing some periodical updates about the US market as part of the new approach. So thank you guys for the continued support over the past 4 years. It has been incredible. And let's make this final meetup in its current form one to remember. YouTube is blowing up. That's good. So here's to celebrating the past and looking forward to the future together. The first session is the Three Musketeers of the of our Gaming America's updates. And I don't know who's the moderator today, but it's really nice to see you guys here, Jeremy, Martin, and Bill. So guys, the virtual floor is yours. You can take it away. I'm looking forward to this awesome session.
Thanks, Zoltan. Really appreciate you having us back. It's been a fun 4 years and glad to have been a part of it. I'm not sure we really have a moderator. We're just going to kind of do a bit of a tag team. I'm Jeremy Kleiman from Sabre. Everyone knows Bill Pasquale III from Princeton Public Affairs Group and Martin Litschka from NTing. Good to see you guys. Bill, it looks like you you in honor of this being the last quarterly meetup, you put on your suit and tie. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, well, I guess you didn't get you didn't read the email. I'm heading to Washington D.C. in about 50 minutes or so. The Speaker of the House and Hakeem Jeffries are honoring my dad's legacy tonight, so that's why I'm in suit and tie.
Got it. All right, guys, let's kick it off. I know Bill has a hard stop, so we want to accommodate. Um, Before we sort of talk about, where we are, where we've been over the last quarter, in various states, and what we think is going to happen in 2025 on the state level, I just thought I'd ask you guys, Bill, you may have a perspective about the impact of the federal election on gaming, iGaming, sports betting in the coming years. Any impact on the Wire Act or otherwise, or is that just something that is so far down on the federal priority list we don't have to worry about it?
Yeah, well, thank you, Jeremy, and always a pleasure to be on with you. Hello, Martin. Good morning. Um, just for contextual purposes, I was just in Malta for a Next.io RG Summit and Sigma, and I was with Lou Stadler, my dear friend. Um, I did a couple of podcasts since Election Day, Jeremy. I'll try to keep it brief and maybe make it a little fresh. I'll be, as I mentioned, in DC tonight for my dad's legacy honoring, but tomorrow, at the invitation of Kellyanne Conway and Bill Stepien, and I'm told Donald Trump Jr. will be attending, I'm meeting with the transition team in Washington at their offices. I'll say a few things, and you know this, Jeremy, but perhaps, and certainly Martin does. Sheldon Adelson, who was a big supporter of Donald Trump in 2016, passed away a few years later while Trump was president. Sheldon was a main reason why Donald Trump did what he did with the reinterpretation of Wire Act. Sheldon's death, God rest his soul, he and I didn't agree on this issue. I'm massively supportive of iGaming and online sports betting. But I don't believe that the Trump administration is really looking to go back and peel back the Wire Act, number one. Number two, I also believe because they've reached out to have a download on gaming, I really don't think the federalization of gaming is going to happen under Trump's administration. Yes, there are other priorities, but Donald Trump was a casino owner. He owned 3 casinos. I represented those 3 casinos 20 years ago. I don't think he's looking to peel that back. I think they're looking for ways to build relationships with the industry. And I think that some of the legislation we'll talk about later, like the Blumenthal Tonko Safe Bet Act and other federal legislative initiatives are not going to come to pass, primarily because it's not a priority of the Trump administration. He's concerned about affordability, the rising inflation in the country, border security, dealing with, in his own way, the Justice Department. So I don't, regardless of who becomes the Attorney General, I don't see that as a possibility. What I do see, and where the industry needs to do a better job, is we have a great story to tell, but we're not telling it in an effective, coordinated way.
Very good morning, everybody. It's great to be here with you again. I didn't know about the change of the format. Otherwise, because Bill is very neat and dapper, as usual, I'm seriously underdressed, and I even resisted the temptation to put my center hat on, because we're now inching ever closer to the holiday season. But on a serious note, I'm sure, Bill, the event in the honor of your father, one of the greatest men I've ever had the pleasure and privilege to meet, will be as it should be. So both emotional, but also it will yet again prove that the Congress and all the other powerful people down in DC hold your father in the greatest of esteems. So I wanted to put that on record, because that just needed to be done. Moving on to the topic that Chairman Bill have kicked off. I agree. I suppose the administration, and unlike most of you, no, I'm still sort of a guest in the country, albeit a permanent guest, but we've lived here for over 3 years. So there's absolutely no doubt that the incoming Trump administration will have other fish to fry than gambling. No, taxes, immigration, inflation, which now seems to be somewhat under control, but I'm not trying to turn this panel into anything political, but I suppose it's axiomatic that if Donald Trump and his team were to go ahead with some of the plans that they presented while on the campaign trail, there's a certain risk that that inflation and its rates might be running away again. So long story short, I agree with what Bill has said, i.e. this incoming administration will have other priorities. Of course, I'm delighted to hear that they are prepared and keen on talking to the utmost experts on all things gambling, our friend here. But I, as I've said, agree that if it makes the priority list, it will be towards the very bottom, nowhere near the top. And I have a similar view on what might happen to our friend Representative Tonko's bill and the efforts of Senator Blumenthal. So as we discussed here before at the meetups, don't fix what ain't largely broken, because there are issues from the regulation and RG perspective on the state level, but keep it at the state level, because those legislators, those regulators, they definitely know what they're doing and how to go about these things, despite the fact that every now and then they could use a little bit of nudging from the likes of Jeremy, Bill, and to some extent myself to steer them in the right direction, especially when it comes to iGaming, but I'm sure we will come on to that as usual.
We will, and that's a that's a good segue. So let's talk about iGaming. Let's talk about as we do, every quarter, our predictions about new states in 2025 and beyond for iGaming. And we talk about things going on with sports betting separately. Let's spin the wheel. Martin, pick a state. New York, Illinois, pick one, and we'll start there and pick around what we think is going to happen.
Absolutely. So everyone's favorite, the proverbial crystal ball glazing exercise. And as Jeremy just pointed out, we've been doing this throughout the year, if not for a couple of years by now. And there tends to be a pattern, or there is a pattern that tends to replicate itself in my book. So a lot of hype, a long list, going back to Jeremy's point. Oh, well, perhaps this is the year the likes of Indiana, Illinois, New York, Maryland, you name them, might get it done. The hope certainly is that at least one, not a couple, may get it done, but it once again is shaping up to be an uphill battle. So for once, I'm not traveling. Zoltan will be prepared. Will be delighted to hear. So I'm at home in New Jersey, looking at the New York skyline. So starting there, and of course, Bill, feel free to disagree. But my take is that on the one hand, our champions in the state of New York, Senator Addabbo and his good friend, Assemblyman Pretlow, will put iGaming, or if you will, online casino, very firmly on the agenda. And New York's digging itself a bigger and bigger budget hole. So from the sort of common sense perspective, yes, it would be a logical step to take. At the same time, in practical terms, the state and especially the city of New York continue grappling with the rollout of, that's the fancy expression, the downstate casinos, or suppose in human speak, the New York City retail casinos. So that's definitely one of Governor Hochul's priorities. That's top of the list, which then begs the question whether there will be the political will and the willpower and some space on the legislative agenda to get iGaming done this year. So that, long story short, I believe New York, once again, spearheaded by Adebo and Pretlow, will have a go. But whether they'll get it done or not, I think I've got my doubts. So perhaps it's not a 25 thing, it might be a 26 thing. But I'll kick it across to Bill to see whether he agrees or disagrees.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Couple of things. And first of all, thank you very much to Zoltan and Betty from Hipster. It's amazing, approaching 2,500 viewers on YouTube, in addition to those that are here on the Zoom, is a great credit to them. So Jeremy, a couple of thoughts. Governor Hochul has had a very challenging 2 years in office. She'll be up for re-election in 2 years. She's most likely running. That seems to be the direction it's going in. I met with Senator Adabo and Assemblyman Pretlow in August in Saratoga at another event that you guys know I attend, that's predominantly on racing and lottery, but also discusses sports betting and online gaming and a little bit about retail casinos. And I was commissioned to make a powerful lobbying argument, which I believe Senator Adabo, and I just talked to him the other day, is very interested in doing. He has a bill in the legislature, which he's going to carve up. It's a comprehensive bill that would allow for online casino, online lottery, and fixed odds horse racing. And what I try to explain to him is 2 of those 3 things I massively support. I do not support online lottery. That's a whole nother topic we don't need to get into here because of its impact on retail, convenience stores, gas stations, and liquor stores. I prefer the courier model, which protects them. But I explained to him, it's really hard to pass any of these things individually. When you put them all together, it just burdens down the bill. So he's going to introduce 3 new bills come January: online lottery, online gaming, and fixed odds horse racing. And I'm going to work very hard with him because I believe the New York budget is continuing to approach a need to where this could become possible because of the large deficit. All the federal money for the pandemic has run dry. State budgets across the country, whether they're red or blue, are having budget deficits, and they're looking for new ways without raising taxes on other things to create new revenue. Online gaming would certainly do that. Fixed odds horse racing would certainly do that. And so when he does carve out those bills, I think there's going to be a massive push. Now that 2 things seem to be moving forward. First of all, as you both know, the New York legislature and governor put $440 million into revamping Saratoga and Belmont. So that's done. That appropriation's been made. Those tracks are underway for being renovated and expanded, and that's a great thing for horse racing. But that took a lot of oxygen out of the room. Number 2, as Martin so eloquently discussed, the downstate casino issues, where we're going to have 3 downstate casinos in addition to the others upstate, that is on its way, although we hear every year around this time it's going to happen next year, meaning the award of the locations, the location committee and the awarding of those. We're not here to discuss that particularly, but I'm optimistic that we're going to see that soon, because once that happens, and the approvals are in place, which takes 6 to 9 months, you got to have shovels in the ground. There's going to be appeals. There's going to be lawsuits. So we're probably 4 to 5 years away from an actual downstate casino opening, right? But if you continue to wait for that to happen, then this is never going to happen. And I think there's some pent-up interest, thanks to a lot of folks that we all know, leading the charge, particularly on online gaming. And you also have to have in the back of your bonnet, which most people, aren't really engaged in government affairs. Governor Hochul's husband, who's a dear friend, is the general counsel for Delaware North. And so the governor has, a little bit of issue to deal with there. So it doesn't look like she's trying to benefit her husband's company, which is clearly not the case. But, optics are everything. Perception is everything. The other thing that's becoming a bit of a distraction, both in terms of what we want to accomplish and in terms of downstate casinos, is the recent indictment of Eric Adams. Now, clearly he's innocent till proven guilty, but that has really impacted, and we saw it in the election. Turnout in New York City was terrible. Eric Adams was distracted. Hopefully, he'll be able to fight through this. But that is yet another factor in this whole equation. I do think, though, that there is a possibility, and I would give it 60% chance of us getting across the goal line next year, online casino and poker and fixed odds horse racing in the state of New York. Should I go to another state, or did you want
to? Yeah. Let's jump to another state. You spin the wheel and pick one.
Yeah, and then we'll kick it back to Martin. So, as you know, Governor Pritzker just signed the law to raise the tax in Illinois, which is very unfortunate. Again, I think if the industry was a little bit better coordinated, we have such a great story to tell. When taxes are increased on the license regulatory regime, we're putting a burden on the people who are acting responsibly, legally, in regulatory compliance, and we're doing nothing to penetrate the black market. Low taxes like we have in multiple states, like my home state of New Jersey, have proven Jersey's doing incredibly well. As a matter of fact, just to pivot to that, they just had their largest month in online casino and poker in October. It was just announced. Now that is having a great effect, but it also, for the casual politician, makes them think like, well, maybe we can grab more money by raising taxes. The reason it's scaling is the technology and innovations continue to be being pushed forward in New Jersey. It's really competing well against New York in terms of online sports betting. They're holding their own. But, I think that Illinois is one of the states, in addition to others we'll talk about, that has a really good chance, because of Governor Pritzker's leadership. The legislature didn't change. It's still very blue, to do online gaming next year. The regulators like it. A majority of the legislators like it. And obviously, they always have to have a ballot referendum, because anytime you expand gaming, the Constitution of Illinois requires that.
What would the timing of that look like if legislation passes authorizing a referendum? Do you know offhand when a referendum would occur? Does it have to pass twice, like in some states? Like, are we 2 years away from approval?
It could go next year if they get it all done in time for the 90-day requirement leading up to the ballot, right? And then if that happens, I believe it'll pass if handled properly and the campaign's done well. And then we could see online gaming in Illinois perhaps in 26.
Okay, good. All right, Martin, back to you. Spin the wheel.
I'll spin the wheel.
If you want me to throw out a state to talk about, let me
As a Patriots fan, I'll go to Ohio. Let's talk about Ohio. Yes, we love the Bengals that are as underperform. They've been as underperforming as we have. So yeah, go Bengals, go Patriots. On a serious note, you may recall, because I believe we would have discussed this at the previous meetup, that the Ohio Senator Antoni, he put his name behind a piece of iGaming legislation, and he was trying to hustle and drum up some support and get it behind it, but he's chosen not to seek re-election. So the big question in Ohio now is to whom he can pass the baton on, or whether somebody will pick it up. Unfortunately, it would appear that the governor is not in favor, which, compare and contrast it with the Illinois example, where, to Bill's point, all the powers seem to be aligned, and I expected, or already even might have, from their support behind the bill that will make it quite a battle. And if there's no support, then I suppose, pragmatically speaking, those folks out in Ohio might not be wasting their precious legislative time with a bill that may stand no chance of passing. And I suppose to we, before kicking it back to Bell, because then he can spin the proverbial wheel and pick another state, as opposed to start weaving in additional themes that, yet again, because the themes don't change. The circumstances, especially the political circumstances on the ground, do change, but the themes and the issues and the risks and challenges we're facing remain the same. So you need, you need political support. Bill started talking about the fact that the COVID and post-COVID packages have started, or they might have already run out, and I just can't see the incoming administration splashing much cash on individual states, especially blue ones, to be brutally honest. The other theme that Bill touched upon as well relates to taxation, because Illinois put up the rate of the betting taxes. Now Louisiana, and I'm sure we will come back to that as part of our debate here, but there's a proposal in Louisiana to increase the sports betting tax by more than 300%. And I suppose what I'm trying to say, and that's the reason I'm bringing it right here, right now, bringing it up right here, right now, and I'm trying to weave it into the iGaming debate. And that's most definitely what the industry's approach pivoted and shifted to. The key argument being, well, but you don't need to put up sports betting taxes. You'd be far better off, in light of all the external factors that both Bill and I have just alluded to, you'd be far better off regulating iGaming. This way, you'd add a vertical to the existing market, and that in itself would be generating more than decent tax revenue for your own state coffers. That obviates the need to put up the rates that apply to the existing sports betting markets, because doing that, and yet again, I concur fully with Bell, that means running a risk that lots of folks will, as they say, vote with their feet and wander off to the black market. So a much more efficient way of keeping everybody within the loop of the existing regulated ecosystem is to start adding the iGaming vertical. It may sound as a gross oversimplification, and to some extent it is, because then, as we've started doing here yet again, got to go state by state and sound out the individual circumstances and challenges on the ground. So there is much more to it. But the approach I'm advocating, I suppose, as usual, the logical one. Now, if there are any legislators listening, there might not be, but I'm sure there are ways of conveying this message. I can guarantee you, based on the experience in the US states that have done it, but also elsewhere around the world, regulating an additional vertical, even from the pure economic and business perspective, is always far more preferable to putting up taxes on the verticals you already have in the market. So although, and that's the final point of this round, or regarding this state, I've sort of gone off the Ohio tangent. Ohio might turn out not to be a flyer, but if anyone out there in connection with Ohio, any other state, is considering raising taxes, hoping that that could fix all the other problems, well, I would strongly suggest that's not necessarily the way. You're far better off, that's the key message, adding online casino and poker to the existing sports betting vertical from the pure economic perspective, and even more importantly, from the consumer or customer protection perspective.
I totally agree. We'll talk about taxes and the states that are proposing to increase taxes, and there are a whole bunch that are going the other way and proposing to lower taxes. But no, I agree with you 100%. And for the life of me, you know, I don't understand. A state like Ohio, perfect example, where a state has a mature land-based casino sector. They've launched successfully online sports betting. You have regulators that are sophisticated. They understand casino content from the land-based side. They understand how to regulate online mobile technology from the sports betting side. It just seems intuitively that adding iGaming as a vertical is an easy fit, right? They know how to regulate the tech. They're familiar with casino games. They're already offering another vertical on a mobile online basis. What's the big deal? And it's just beyond me. And I appreciate that, the politics are granular and local, and there are different circumstances. But at a high level, rather than raising taxes, it just seems like the path of least resistance. So I just don't get it. But what do I know? I'm a novice when it comes to politics. Billy, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I understand. I think, Jeremy, the problem is you're too smart. You have too much background when most of the people making these decisions in government don't. And I put the burden on the industry, not on the politicians. Politicians are drinking out of a fire hose. They're dealing with their electoral careers in addition to public policy. Mike DeWine, former U.S. Senator, governor of Ohio, is a great guy. He's not some rabid right-wing person. He's measured, he's practical, but he's not supportive of iGaming. He's just not, and he said it. God bless him, because a lot of politicians speak out of both sides of their mouths. But I put the burden on the industry because I think we have a tremendous story to tell. Talking about job creation, talking about the revenue generation, but also speaking about the massive burden on the regulated industry, what they have to do for licensure, for compliance, for integrity, all of the various issues they have to deal with that none of the black market competitors have to deal with, right? Black market doesn't pay taxes. They don't have compliance issues. They don't have licensing issues. They just go. They don't really care about RG. They take advantage of consumers, and there's no consequence. There can be some things done about the black market, but more importantly, reducing costs on the regulated market is the best entrepreneurial commercial way to push back on the black market. Give you another example of that. You talk about concepts like Lou Stadler is trying to initiate with his company Swap Profit. That's a new vertical. It's really not out there yet. Get that into the market. You'll bleed money away from the black market because of the attractiveness of that. Number 2, sweepstakes. And 3, DFS Plus. Not regulated, right? The industry's focused a lot of energy and time on that, which is fine. I agree. Like our good friend Jeremy, Director Reebok, has postulated. He thinks this is ridiculous, that sweepstakes and DFS Plus should be regulated. I think that the sweepstakes and DFS Plus people, when it comes to time where they're going to be regulated, fine, but they're making a cash cow on it because they don't have licensing fees and compliance issues and all the other things that they're regulated. Who is out there? I put this out there rhetorically. but I'm hoping that somebody listens. Who's out there talking about the great story we have to tell? The wonderful story where, because of online gaming and online sports betting, we can monitor and protect customers. Because of the massive regulation for online payment processing companies. I see Sue Pages here from NeoSurf. They're fantastic. They're paying lots of costs on compliance and licensing because of all the concerns valid on AML issues, but there's a lot of black market payment processors. And what are we doing about them? And then the other point I want to mention as Exhibit A for how an effective lobbying strategy can work. And I'm giving all the credit. I was just along with Martin working with him. We met almost 2 years ago with Senator Tonko when he dropped his first advert ban bill, banning advertising in the U.S. House. Now, fortunately for us, we had a little time because Tonko's in the minority and he'll remain in the minority, although, as you know, the margins are very close. It's only going to be a 4 or 5 seat difference at the end of the day. We'll know more. There's only 5 seats left in the 435 members of Congress that haven't been called yet, right? 5 seats, and they're around the country. Tonko and Blumenthal, much in great part because the industry thought, oh, that bill's not going anywhere. We don't care about it. Martin and I met and physically met with Tonko. Tonko cares about mental health. Didn't know a lot at the time about gaming. He's getting educated. He's attended a few conferences at our invitation. He then dialed his bill back. It's still not a great bill, but it's better than it was. You know, the advertising ban is not complete, although I am against any advert ban because I only think it helps the black market. He's also got prop bet bans in there and affordability checks, etc. But, you know, thankfully, we have a little bit more time because it's highly unlikely that Speaker Johnson, who I'll be with tonight, because he's organized the event for my dad this evening in the Capitol, he's not going to post Tonko's bill. It's not going anywhere. Blumenthal's bill won't be posted by Senate Majority Leader, the new Senate Majority Leader in January, John Thune, who's a great guy and a practical guy. But as I've said before, the federal government, under any administration, can barely run a one-car funeral. They should not be involved in the gaming industry. They haven't been, other than tribal gaming. And so, you know, automobile insurance and gaming have been left to the states. I hope it stays that way. But a lot of operators think like, oh, we want the federal government to regulate us. Yeah, I don't think that is a good idea.
I might pick it up where Bill left it off, and I'm sure on Thursday, please do convey that message to Don Jr., Kelly, and Conway. Like, stay out of our lane. We largely know what we're doing. But on a much more serious note, going back to what Bill started saying about proof of concept, I might be stating the very obvious, but that tends to be the biggest hurdle anybody with a new project, I'm not just looking at you, Lou, but many others, are facing. Like, well, show me what you've got and who else is interested. And is it all up and running, or is it just a theoretical concept? And there's method to this madness, if you bear with me, because what I'm trying to say is that all the folks in power on the state level need to do in terms of proof of concept is to look at the other states that have already regulated both sports betting and iGaming, especially the likes of New Jersey, Michigan, Pennsylvania. It's generating a lot of revenue for the state coffers. It does address the absolutely critical issue we've been facing as an industry, i.e. a black market. So it's already out there. And yes, I agree with you both and Now I might be sounding a bit like a broken record. It's never as simple and straightforward as this, but especially in this, even brushing aside the political climate, which is important, but let's be pragmatic in this economic climate. So take a good look at the states that have already regulated and what is not to like. And perhaps to add a couple of non-US examples at the risk of putting my residential status at jeopardy. So don't tell on me, Bill, in DC when you're talking to Homeland Security. Ontario, a great example of the market that regulated some 2.5 years ago, both verticals. It's been absolutely flying. Besides that, and there are studies to that effect, it's created a lot of local jobs. And one final point to address the critical issue we face in the black market. If I remember correctly, the regulated Ontario market has managed to capture some 80, 85, going upwards, % of the previously existing non-regulated market. In other words, it's taken a lot of boxes. The other example I was going to give, the one that many of you might recall very close to my heart, Brazil. We're very, very close. I don't want to jinx it, but very close to having the Brazilian regulated market launched. And yet again, although for a long, long time it hadn't looked that way, the Brazilians have, in my view, made the right choice to regulate both sports betting and online casino, bearing in mind both the opportunities, including economic opportunities that will have generated, and the risks and challenges that are associated with the non-regulated market. So very, very long story short, and this is the bottom line. Examples of successful regulation abound. So I'm with you, Bill and Jeremy. Yes, it's never straightforward, but it's still, to quite some extent, beyond me why there are only 8 states to have regulated online casino. I'm not suggesting that one day it may not be the case that all the states that have regulated sports betting will go down the online casino route. Mainly, I suspect, for societal and even religious reasons. Down south, perhaps. How come there are not 20 plus states? Because these existing precedents should be attracting much more attention.
Martin, those 2 examples that you gave from Ontario, those 2 data points, jobs creation and clawing back the black market, customers from the black market, like that, those are perfect examples of what Bill was talking about, which is we have a great story to tell and we're just not telling it because you don't hear that, right?
Yeah, Jeremy, I want to thank you. I appreciate you framing it that way. Just last week, now Jeremy, you know this well, but many that are listening in don't, and certainly Martin does. There was a bill dropped by my state senator, John McKeon, who's a great friend. He just went into the Senate, knows nothing about gaming, wasn't even thinking about calling me on this because he's in the environmental. That's his environmental care is his concern. He dropped a bill to raise the tax on sports betting.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Yeah.
I obviously reached out to him immediately. We bound that bill up. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. But what it's allowed me to do is go in and educate him. He had no idea. Every casual observer that's not a part of this industry thinks this industry is massively profitable, right? Just look at the stock for all the big companies. It's not doing as great as you would think it would be. So you have to educate that margins are thin in sports betting. They're a little bit better in iGaming, okay? So there's room there. But like nobody's telling this very valuable story that forget it, we create jobs, we create taxes. But if you hurt us by putting intrusive regulations in place, by raising taxes and other issues, all you're doing is benefiting the black market, okay? Because it's a zero-sum game at the end of the day. And then The other point I wanted to pivot to is another success story, but marginally. As you know, and Martin certainly knows, Missouri, with 50.1% vote, passed their legalization of sports betting ballot referendum on November 7th. It was not a great campaign. It should have passed by a higher margin, but nonetheless, it passed. It's been certified, and they're talking about, I'll believe it when I see it, they're talking about launching in December. So that's a good accomplishment after the last one, which was North Carolina on March 11th. Moving forward, all eyes are going to be on Texas because they meet every other year. And the only way to get something done soon there is to work hard during their session in February, March, and April. And hopefully we'll get together and talk about the good and the positive, which I think the political establishment in Texas would embrace, and stop talking about competitive advantage. We should not, as an industry, go in individually and talk about how you can benefit my clients or my company. We should be talking about broader terms and then work the commercial competitiveness out after it's regulated. I'm very optimistic about Texas. I think the lieutenant governor has come a long way. We're not guaranteed to get it done, but I'll put that at 65% for next year.
Ever the optimist, Bill, but what I would say is that I hope that the Texas legislature does better than the Cowboys.
I'm concerned, Bill, to your point, about everyone going in and sort of staking out their own position to benefit themselves. That's exactly, we're going to end up in a circular firing squad in Texas, right? I mean, all the big boys are, very overtly parachuting in teams of lobbyists to jockey for, to protect their own position. And unless the industry, again, starts to speak with one voice and tell the story, I'm not as optimistic as you guys are. But then again, I'm just a layperson. So, and by the way, on Missouri, yes, the referendum, just squeaked by, and at a 10% tax rate, right, which is the right way to do things.
That's right. That's right.
Worth mentioning. Although I am hearing that the counts were so close in some counties, there may be recounts. So who knows if that 51%, moves in the other direction. But let's keep our fingers crossed. All right, Texas, Missouri. What else we got? We don't have a whole ton of time left. Let's maybe we talk briefly about there's some pending legislation in different states around tax rate, right? And it's a bit schizophrenic to me, although I appreciate that circumstances are different in every state. You mentioned, Bill, Ohio, the governor's in favor of increasing the tax rate, I think from 15 to 20%. Louisiana, we talked about, or Martin mentioned, that's sports betting is at 15%. I believe the proposal was to jump it to 51%, a la New York, although I think that may have died because of industry backlash, which is a good thing. Ohio, everyone knows, a year or so ago, increase, double the tax rate from 10% to 20%. I think there's a proposal now to put it back, lower it back down to the original 10%, which is a good thing. Bill, you mentioned a proposal that is going nowhere, thankfully, in New Jersey to increase tax rate on iGaming and sports betting. And then finally, Maryland, I believe there was a proposal in the legislature to increase online sports betting tax from 20% to 51%, but I think that was killed. So, what's going on here? We have some states that are looking at increased taxes, and others are looking to lower it or reduce it back to where it was.
I tell every legislator that is contemplating a tax increase for the regulated industry, regardless of what the number is, to call Senator Adabo, because when we met with Senator Adabo during our lobby efforts to get sports betting done in that state, we told him the 51% tax rate was not good. It would really hurt the state ultimately. They launched, they had a great couple of months, and then reality started to set in. And as you know, Jeremy, Senator Adabo introduced a bill to lower the tax rate. Now, I know it's very unlikely tax rates go down, but Senator Adabo regrets that, and he's a good man. He understands now that that tax rate is hurting the regulated industry. They're not willing to invest what they're investing in border states like Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey with lower tax rates because the return is not as good, right? And I said jokingly many times, just to make a point, the operators should all be hiring limousine companies in New York and driving their customers across the border because it matters, right? When you charge a 51% tax rate, and I said this 2 years ago in Texas, you're essentially the socialist gaming empire of the world, because how do you tax something at 51%? You essentially own the company by doing that, and you're not allowing that company to do all the things it needs to do in a regulated regime.
As a result, you don't have the capital or the cash to reinvest in the product. And then you have an inferior product because you can't market, you can't, bonus and incentivize the same way that black market does, right? So you now have a lesser product and you're competing against the black market guys who don't have those tax constraints. And they can incentivize the players. So that's yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
If I may, in my book, it's yet again going back to the storytelling point. Now, Bill's talked about zero-sum game, but I would add, or the factor I would add to that discussion is the fact that what we've got on our hands are low-margin products. And yes, it is fair to say that the industry invested a lot into sponsorships and other kind of partnerships with the world of sport. It's all very visible. So that may give the wrong impression that these guys have huge and very, very deep pockets. That still, my point stands. It's a low margin product and there's a lot to squeeze into that margin, and indeed the biggest risk associated with any material, I was going to say major, even material tax increase is the one that folks will simply start, or in some cases continue, to bet with the dodgy bookies, the black market sites, and unfortunately ditch the regulated sites. I suppose as part of the storytelling, we might need to conduct and present to the broad wide world additional studies about the impact that any such change or even the existing legislation have or have not had on the black market. But it's all, and that's the point I'm trying to make, it's just all intertwined. Yeah, we may be perceived as sort of a low-hanging fruit. To be fair to decision makers, would they be thinking, well, if I slap a higher tax rate on online gambling or sports betting, will I lose any votes or many votes? The answer is probably no. And indeed, the money needs to be found somewhere, but you just can't tax anyone to the point of running a risk of having to leave the market. But that's the point. It's coming down to education, providing the right information at the right time, including the very basics, because perhaps the mistakes we may still be making, and that applies across the board. This is not, in my book, it's not just a US issue. Any kind of this education needs to start from the very basics, a low margin product. And this is what sports betting is. This is how it works. This is what online casino is. This is how it works. Yes, it may be available 24/7, to give you but a few more examples, but we've got tools in place designed to protect our patrons, and so on and so forth. Once that has landed, when that's embedded in everyone's thinking, then you'd like to think that the cohort of naysayers, for want of better expression, will start shrinking. Because I can imagine some of those folks will go, oh, well, yeah, that makes much more sense now why you're lobbying against material tax increases. And also, once we've got that platform, we can bounce off it to have a debate about more sophisticated concepts. But without laying the foundations, we might continue struggling with bringing our messages across.
Jeremy, I got to run.
Okay. See you.
I'll let you finish up. Take care, Martin. Bye, everybody.
All right.
Have a good
Good
ride.
luck in DC.
Thank you, Zoltan.
Good luck.
All right. Hey, Martin, we just have a few minutes left. Let's just talk real quick about the one big state that we talk about every quarter we haven't mentioned. And that's our friends on the West Coast in California. So, ironically, right, two foes, the tribes and the online operators, seem to now be aligned in opposing sweepstakes, which is kind of makes for interesting bedfellows. But anyway, just real quick, what are your thoughts in 2025 on anything happening in California by way of sports betting?
It's a good thing, no, that the industry or the private industry is now aligned with the tribe, and I hope that it will give rise to a beautiful friendship that will help us get California regulated. I'm not entirely sure whether it could be a 25 item, but as you will recall, and we've discussed this particular topic, as you've said yourself, at these meetups ad nauseum, the key to regulating California, and for that matter, any tribe-heavy, for want of better expression, state, is to find a way of working together and aligning yourself with the tribes. So as I've said, I believe this is an excellent start, going back to Bill's point about sweepstakes. And then let's hope, I can use the same analogy I've used before, we could use this as a platform to kickstart the process around regulation. I would hate to speculate around dates, because not even my crystal ball has that power when it comes to California. But I will leave it there, if I may. I think this is hopefully a start of a beautiful friendship, and the two unorthodox and unusual bedfellows are getting to know each other much better, and that ultimately might take us where we need to go.
I agree. I hope they're on the right path. I think everyone learned their lesson from the disastrous campaign last time around, where everyone got each other. And the only way to make it work is for everyone to be on the same side and figure out how to split it up so everyone can benefit economically. That's the only way we're going to get it done. We start fighting each other, the industry is not going to overcome tribal opposition in California. So,
and it's such a shame. One of the many reasons why it's such a shame that Bill's had to leave, because I'm sure that he would put on the perfect impersonification of Stephen A. Smith and would have explained in his very eloquent and passionate way what he thinks about that referendum. But I think we should leave it there, because most of our listeners might remember that, and let's just stick to the theme of the future beautiful friendship, I would suggest.
I concur. So let's leave it there. Zoltan, we're going to turn it back over to you. Thank you so much for 4 great years of these quarterly meetups. It's been an absolute pleasure and a lot of fun. And I want to thank my good friend Martin and Bill. And we will see you next time in some other format.
And
Yes,
thank
exactly.
you Thank you, everybody, Zoltan in particular, and Jeremy and Bell, despite being absent. And let me wish you, I might have to do it in the politically correct way, happy holidays. And in human speak, very Merry Christmas and great Thanksgiving for those of you who will be celebrating it next week in the meantime.
Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, it has been 4 crazy years. And Martin, don't worry, not even our team knew that we are stopping this and doing a new format. So this is something to consider for tomorrow's
Okay, I don't need to cry
emails.
myself to sleep then. That's good.
No. It was in my head and I just forgot to tell everyone. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I will be
All
in
right.
touch and already wishing you happy holidays. And now we go to the next session, which is about Latin America. And have a great moderator here, Sue Page, CEO Americas at NeoSurf. Sue, it's nice to meet you because we just got acquainted last week, and I already read about your bio. It's great to have you here. Yoni is just joining the session now, and Alexander will also join in. Maybe you guys can get started. He can just get into the action when he arrives.
Sure. Hey, Yoni, and hi, we've actually not met before, so quick introductions, but I believe congratulations are in order.
Because I don't know if you know my family excitement or something else.
Yeah, you had a celebration the weekend, right?
Well, actually, this week, still ongoing. Yes, it's my eldest son's bar mitzvah. So we are currently celebrating it in Israel. So if there's any sirens, I apologize. I would have to
Oof.
run. But we've had a quiet day so far, so we should be okay.
Okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed for sure.
Yes.
While we're waiting for Alex to join us, do you want to do a brief intro and tell us a bit about you and about WizTech?
Yeah, for sure. So myself, 21 years in gaming, which is quite a long time. Certainly makes me feel old, especially going to all the conferences and seeing the new young meat in the industry. But 21 years in gaming, working on a wide variety of projects, normally on the business development side and the marketing side for brands such as William Hill, and also Caliente. And about 3 years ago, decided that we should go it alone, that we could build a platform that was hopefully better or more efficient than the platforms are out there as a B2B and B2C offering. And we launched a joint venture in Mexico with a brand called Wimpot, which is one of the largest retail operators in Mexico. We launched that 2 years ago, and today it's one of the top 5 brands in Mexico. And we also have about 11, soon to be 12 customers, partners using our platform for a wide variety of geos. So the company is experiencing huge growth over the past 12 months, especially. We're expanding the team in Mexico. We're expanding the budgets that we have in Mexico. So Mexico's our main focus, but we also have a lot of brands working in the LATAM region. So I think that's why hopefully my points and opinions will be relevant on this topic, I hope.
I'm sure. I think maybe we'll just jump into it because I don't see that Alex has joined, so it's just going to be you and me for a bit, and hopefully he'll come and join us. So just asking, with your experience and going into and launching into Mexico, I mean, what, I guess from your experience, what were your biggest challenges? And because we're working with an ever evolving landscape, are those challenges still the same? You know, what would your advice be for someone that's just looking at that market right now?
So if we're talking just about Mexico, I don't believe the goalposts are moving too much. I think it's a relatively well-established, regulated market. It has been for many years. And I think Caliente have done a great job in kind of paving the way for others to enter a market that has clear boundaries, clear framework agreements, and clear regulations. So I think that's definitely helped, that it is a regulated market and the market was already educated. I think the biggest stumbling block, that if I didn't have the experience I had previously working in Caliente when they first started, is understanding the importance of fully localizing your brand. And that for me doesn't mean just language. For me, that means the tone of voice of the brand, the content that you're providing to the customers, not just in terms of what's written on the website, but the actual games that they are playing. It needs to be relevant to Mexico, Brazil, Peru, whatever that market may be. And it could also come down to stuff like the PSPs and the payments. It's all well and good, integrating with a Nuvei or a big aggregator that will give you Visa and MasterCard, but you also need to have the local payments, whether it be retail operators, local bank transfers, stuff like that. And then you also have to make sure, obviously, you're fully compliant and understand the compliance in that region, because obviously for every market, and I think it's what we want to discuss here on this forum, that every country is different when it comes to regulation. So I think having a relationship with the regulator has definitely helped us a lot, and having a local partner, someone that can really help, whether it be the regulation, give you the advice, giving you the customers the kind of the trust that you're not just an online brand. They actually have a physical presence where they can go to, and if they have any complaints, qualms, or whatever that may be. So I think the local partners has definitely helped, and the local partners also really helped us with the regulator, because Yoni from Cyprus would struggle to arrange a meeting with the heads of Segov, but our local partner, who do have 21 land-based casinos, they had that relationship. So straight away, I met with the regulators before we went to market, and I told them what we intended to do, and they gave us very strict guidelines, what we can and can't do. And we have a kind of a monthly, or every 2 months, we sit down with them, we meet with them, and we tell them what our plans are, just to make sure that they're okay with it, because we don't want to go down a path where we're going to have to stop marketing activity or something we're doing, because it's time and it's money and it's effort. So for me, the important is fully localized brand, and that comes not just as the front end, but also the tone of voice, a very good local partner, good payments, local payments, and having a relationship with the compliance.
And would you say that then creates a framework for you to take into other countries, other regions, when you look at that and say, I've created a blueprint with Mexico, and I can then, if Brazil is next on your list, for instance, would you take that as a framework? Would that be the same approach?
I would say yes. And like I said at the beginning, 21 years working in the industry, it's mainly been in established regulated markets, not what we would probably call the emerging regulated markets, such as Latin America. And it is a landscape that's constantly changing. If you look at Brazil as the main example, people aren't really sure, where to dot the I's and cross the T's, because the Brazilian regulator themselves aren't sure. And so people are kind of waiting or second guessing. So I think what we've done in Mexico, and the fact that it is a relative success in our eyes anyway, that I would copy paste what we've done. I'm not saying it would be just as easy, because the regulations are different, and you have to fully understand them, and you may not be able to find the perfect local partner. And I think we really got lucky in Mexico by having a great partner in Mexico. But that would be the path I would go down. I think it would save you time and money further down the line if you can get your foundations right before going into a regulated market.
Yeah, agreed. I see. Did Alex join? I see somebody else has joined us, but they're not on camera.
Alex will join in about 5 minutes maximum.
Okay. All right.
It's not easy being a moderator, is it? So you're doing a great job.
It's great. This is going to be a great conversation. So let's talk about, we talk about Brazil, because I think that's really where everyone has their eye on, because it's such a big market and it generates an awful lot of excitement. But then the flip side of that is like you've just alluded to, that there's an ever moving landscape of regulation. It seems that we have something new on a fairly regular basis, and I'm wondering how onerous that is in being able to to manage compliance and manage that internally, where we have these ever moving goalposts.
I think it depends who you are. I think if you are a big brand, so you kind of have to slice it and dice it. You have the big brands that are already relatively established in Brazil, for example, working under the umbrella of a Curacao license or a Grey license. But they are very close. They have the budgets, they have the large compliance teams, so they do have their ear to the ground. They are perhaps even influencing some decisions that are being made, because the government can understand that some of these bigger brands like Betano or whoever it may be, it's worthwhile for them to be generating GGR and tax benefits for the government. But I think for the smaller to medium-sized brands, I don't think it's that easy in a market like Brazil, and that's one of the reasons we're kind of staying away. I classify ourselves as a small to medium. I think that even though it might be slightly harder work to target the other markets in Latin America that are following suit and are becoming regulated, everyone's focus is on Brazil because that's where the mass is. You have a huge population. They understand gambling. It's been there already for numerous years. So me personally, I would try and stay away until the dust has settled and everyone knows what is going on, because small to medium-sized companies, I don't think, can afford to make constant changes to their systems, to their marketing budgets. Whereas the bigger brands, I think, will be able to blow everyone else away, especially at the go when everyone is going to be launching and it's very, very exciting. Then yes, my money would be on the big brands. And I think once everything kind of consolidates itself and the regulation, the framework is totally clear, then I think you'll see the small to medium-sized companies that can afford to pay what needs to be paid to get the license, around 5 million euros, then they will come into the market.
Not even the it's not even that side of the regulation though, is it? When you look at the consumer experience. So if we just focus on with the KYC and the biometrics verification, are you looking at that every 7 days? And I wonder what impact that's going to have to the overall user experience, if that's going to turn people off or not.
I think it'll be an eye opener. So we've seen it in Mexico. Like I said, it's a more sophisticated regulated market. It's been around for some time, but the users, I believe, are becoming more and more savvy, especially in emerging markets where, if we put gaming aside, the internet exposure and the infrastructure in some of these countries, especially in the urban areas, is becoming more and more present for the customers, for the end user. They know how to buy online, they know how to secure their details. They're aware of it now, and I think Brazil falls under that kind of umbrella that it's not a stupid market. The people have been gambling for a long time. The people know how to use PixPay. They understand that it's a form of entertainment. It's not a form of making money. So I don't think the user will be so put off by that experience. I think they're used to it, especially if they are transacting online on a regular basis, buying Amazon or trying to deal with their banking situation. So I don't think it'd be that off-putting for the end user, but that doesn't mean that the systems that you have in place, they need to be as user-friendly as possible. You need to have as fewer clicks, as advanced tech-wise as it can possibly be, whether it be being able to take selfies yourself on your mobile phone, and having a very good fraud and system and document verification systems in place to make it easy for the user and make sure that the platforms you're using understand what is needed in each market, whether it be in Brazil, Mexico, Peru, or wherever that may be.
Going back to what you said about having someone on the ground and collaborating with local entities, do you think where we have an emerging market that there's actually an opportunity and that we might actually see some data sharing between operators?
So I'm actually massively in favor for more collaboration between operators, and it's something that I've always advocated for, and something actually I do practice what I preach, and there's lots of operators working all over the world that I'm more than happy to collaborate with. And I think the transfer of information and knowledge is beneficial because at the end of the day, first of all, there's enough business to go around. I think everyone knows their place, and the guys that have good systems in place, good marketing, good CRM, able to keep their customers. If you have good practices, you will have a good business. And I don't see the issues with sharing, information and tips, because if I take Mexico again, it's just the industry or the region that I know the best. Caliente has paved the way for all of these other brands to come in. They've educated the users whether they like it or not. Okay, the users aren't going to stay with them for lifetime, but because of Caliente, people know that they can bet on their mobile. People know that they can upload documents. People know that it's safe and secure. So I think it's beneficial for the iGaming industry as a whole that we should share more information. That's why I'm more than happy to do these types of things. Now, I think that's my second or maybe my third one, because none of us are reinventing the wheel. And I think, the more advice and help we can give to everyone, the better it is for the market in general. And we can all hopefully thrive and prosper.
I agree. I mean, certainly from our perspective, we have what we call a compliance handshake. So we're looking at, because as a payments company, we have a different view on that customer, right? We actually see the deposits into the wallet, the value and volume and velocity of what's going into the wallet prior to the wager being placed. So I think there's power there in being able to share that information, maybe sharing KYC data, so it makes it less onerous for the consumer as we're onboarding.
I really, really do agree with that, and I think it's something that's maybe become slightly more improved recently. I don't know if that's just us and the position that we found ourselves in, but I definitely feel that a lot of the C-level or senior people are less cautious about giving advice and tips, and it could even be introductions. This is a good PSP that we use in Mexico. I recommend them, and there's no reason why, like you said, the handshake, or the terminology you use, but the secret handshake that we have, there's no reason why it shouldn't be more in the iGaming space, and I think everyone will benefit, especially the end user.
Right. Do you think that we can take any, with it being such a so many different regions within this so many different countries and areas within this huge region, are there learnings that we can take from the US market in terms of handling the compliance and regulation?
I think for sure, yes. Obviously, the US has taken everything state by state, and I think Latin America should be done differently. Okay, they're country by country, but each one is different. So whereas I'm not expecting, or I wouldn't be expecting of anyone to make fundamental changes to their back office or their systems to be compliant, from different states, I think you need to build a back office and the foundations of your business that it is scalable, that it can work in a pragmatic way, that you can make minor changes for each state. But I would copy what is happening in the US and tackle each one as an individual, and not just say, okay, Latin America needs to be like this. No, you have Michigan, you have Colorado, you have New Jersey, you have all this, you have Peru, you have Mexico, you have Brazil. It's a huge, huge region, huge population. It's emerging. It's beneficial for everybody that it is becoming more regulated. When I say for everybody, maybe not the brands that are making money now under a Curacao license or even no license, but for the end user, which we mustn't lose sight of. The end user is the most important, because you do not want to give this industry a bad name. You want good practices. The idea is to provide entertainment and not to try and drain the player as quickly as possible. It's better for you to have responsible gaming. It's better for you to have limits. It's better for you to educate the user on responsible gaming. It's better for you to have tools to make sure that you can spot these problems early on, because the user will stay with you. They'll be much more grateful if they feel that you are looking after them. And that needs to be on a state by state or country by country level, similar to what the US have done.
Let's drill into the responsible gaming piece. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, obviously it's front and center in the US, rightly so. There are learnings there for sure. What do you see in the Mexican market? Are we giving the consumers the right tools? Do they understand what responsible gaming is?
So I've actually just come back from Mexico, and we had a discussion on this. We were planning for 2025, and Wimpot itself is a brand that's growing a lot over the past 12 months. So we probably didn't have the right practices in place, just because we're ahead of the curve to where we thought we were. So we are, from 2025, implementing much more stricter measures for the customers, and that is starting first and foremost with education. Now, if you take Europe, the UK especially, just because I consume a lot of UK TV, a lot of the adverts, I mean, I miss it. What can I do? I mean, I can't say I watch. I'm not up to date with EastEnders, but at least the sport and stuff like that. Though I do miss the Queen Vic. But but you see in the UK that a lot of their adverts, they are pushing on media, expensive media. They're pushing responsible gaming, know when to stop. And I think that these type of messages, I think, is super important, and I don't think they should be undervalued. It's not all about pushing bonuses, because it's an established market. Like I said, I've been doing this for 21 years, and where we were 21 years ago, where we are today, is totally different. We are a well-established, well-respected, huge industry generating billions and billions of dollars. with public limited companies, and we have a responsibility to the end user to make sure that we can continue the growth, to make sure that we can continue enjoying everything that we are doing, and it shouldn't be ruined by the few. And that's why I'm all for regulation. And for us in Mexico, we are going to start educating our customers, making sure that on the website they can find everything they need if they feel that they have a problem. We have full limitation on deposits, on gameplay, and we're using AI and third-party tools to help us spot these customers. And we actually have outbound call center that when we do have these customers, we do reach out to them and say, is everything okay? Do you need anything? We have forms that we send out automatically from the website, giving them information if they do have problems, and asking, would you like us to place limits because you're losing too much. So I'm not saying we're the extreme of where the UK are and asking KYC documents for every deposit over £2.50, but we are trying to take care of the customers much, much more. And what we are seeing is that the customers are staying with us even longer.
It's fascinating that you're already incorporating AI tools into this. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, yes, I'm not the brains of the operation, so I know what we're doing. So what we are utilizing is a lot of obviously our internal data that we have, and we started that off by looking at when we are seeing that players are coming to us and saying that they have a gambling problem, and seeing the patterns that we can see in their gameplay, the type of games they're playing, the type of deposits, the frequency of the deposits, the frequency that they're actually on the website. We've kind of built an algorithm that will flag customers automatically to our customer support team, and then that will then initiate a process of sending out an email or an SMS, arranging a call with one of our customer support agents, and then from there we kind of take it case by case. But we don't push anything on the user, but we do try and engage with him and just let him know that if he needs anything, any information, we can help supply that information. We're not going to act as a psychologist or an expert. At the end of the day, these are still customer support agents, but we do now have the processes in place to make sure that the user is fully aware that we are aware of the situation he is in, and we are here to help if he needs it.
I love that. I love the fact that it's a proactive versus a reactive stance.
Correct.
We responsible gaming, social gaming responsibility is something that we take very seriously at NeoSurf, and we've actually conducted research in the US prior to entering the US market to actually talk to the player and find out how do you bet, right? What is a problem to you, and is responsible gaming important? And the answer is yes, it is very important, but they don't necessarily see themselves as a problem gambler. It's like, what's that definition? And you're right. It's like, are we talking about an exception? We need to create a safe and sustainable industry. And it's about providing the player with the tools and the recognition. And I love that you're maybe just creating sort of like a stop to have them pause and take a breath and actually recognize that they might need to take a break.
Yes. And again, the feedback we are getting is really, really good. And it's much better for us to get feedback from customers, because a lot of what we are doing is based on the feedback that we get, not just the data, because the data can only tell you so much. But we're seeing that the customers are staying with us. They're loyal with us. Okay, so they may want a timeout of 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. But we also have a place, we're still here to make money, that if they say we want a call-off period for 1 month, after 1 month, they will then get a message. Are you sure that you're okay to come back? It's not send them straight away, here's a free bonus. And this is done, like I said, we don't need to tarnish this industry. There's enough money to go around for everybody. We need to make sure that the PR that the industry does get is positive, of people winning, of people enjoying themselves, of people getting nice prizes, nice gifts, not of people, having to sell their house or getting divorced, or even more tragic than that. There's no need for it, and it does more harm than good. And I think it's much better to take a proactive approach to these types of things, because at the end of the day, you are talking to people, and these people have lives, and you are trying to make sure that the feeling they have with you is a feeling of entertainment, safety, security. And for me, that's why it's really, really important. So the learnings that we've kind of taken from Europe and the US, we're trying to implement now in Mexico.
I completely agree. I mean, ultimately, we're in an entertainment industry. But we do, we then need to put that framework in place that we're supporting and keeping players safe. We want to keep them safe and healthy. And I think it sounds like you're doing an amazing job. I'd love to have more conversation with you about that at some point as well. I want to go back to something that you mentioned at the beginning when you're looking at going into the market, and one of your biggest learnings being how you talk to customer and making sure that you're doing that and being truly localized in every aspect of what you do. And creating trust. I think that's so important. We know that especially in Latin America, we have a cultural thread that's very different. There are superstitions maybe around payment processes and trust issues there that have to be overcome. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're marketing to those individual consumers and what makes that different to what you've done elsewhere?
So in Latin America, the kind of approach that we've taken, and I think this is very different to the approach that I've worked on in the past. Okay, Caliente was many years ago, but there's been numerous brands over the 21 years. That a call center for us isn't just someone who is going to try and get people to convert. For us, a call center is also a touch point in terms of feedback. We're also very fortunate that we have 21 land-based casinos, so it's not just reliant on the call center. A lot of our customers will be going to the land-based casino, where we also have representatives. We have a stand at every retail casino where we put we call them Wimport Angels, is actually the name, which was my idea. I'd like that on the record. The Wimport Angels are there. Sorry?
So whoever's taking notes, please annotate.
I don't have many, but when I do, I want them noted. And these angels are also there to help the user, and it's not just about give me your money, give me your money, give your money. It really is, how are you? How are you doing? Getting to know your customers. So we have customer support agents that have a portfolio, and they know the birthdays, they know when they're going on holiday. They know a lot about the user because they're building these relationships, and it's nice. We even get some customers that when we are listening to the conversations or getting feedback from the managers, they want to give a tip to their agents. They're so nice, so helpful. So it's kind of coming like a service industry, and it's not us saying, do you need us to book a restaurant for you? It's just us being there. Any problems, any issues they have, providing them with the relevant promotions, the right messaging, and we also try and maintain a similar tone of voice throughout the discussions. So we do try and train the people that we know will have a touch point to the end user. Don't be aggressive. Be empathetic. Be patient. Be friendly. Be secure. Not, like I said, give me your money. Give me your money. I'll give you a bonus. It's like I said, the market has evolved, and the end user has evolved with it, and they understand that they can go to many different places, and they are much more aware of their rights and what they want to be entertained with.
Did I just hear you say that you've actually got customers that are willing to pay for customer support?
It's not pay for, but it's
because I want to know how you work that model, please, Yoni.
It's honestly, when I was in Mexico, it came up that some of the customers wish to leave a tip when they're making a withdrawal or something to their agent. So obviously,
Wow.
we're now trying to build it in our system in the drawer. Would you like to tip, Andreas or Julio, whoever your agent may be?
Wow, that's amazing! Congratulations. That's no mean feat, right?
Yeah. Again, if you keep them happy, then there's no reason why you shouldn't have that relationship with the customer.
Right. So I just seen a note from Zoltan. It's just you and I. Alex, unfortunately, is not going to join us, so we'll just carry on. Let's talk about trends. Are you seeing anything noticeably different in Mexico with regards to the games that are being played? What sort of content they're consuming?
There's definitely trends that we see. Obviously, social media today is a huge driver of traffic, and a lot of these trends do come from social media. I'm definitely not a social media expert, but you see what these guys are doing on TikTok and on Instagram, where they're actually pushing games themselves, and these games then become extremely popular with especially the younger audience. Take Aviator, I think, as a great example, a game that's, okay, excuse the pun, but a game that's really taken off, especially in Mexico, that we've seen that kind of overflow into more crash games being prominent in Mexico. Even Mines is another one that you could say. So trends do follow, but they do move, and it's not Aviator is not the only one. People like branded games. People like games that they see in our retail establishment. So we work very strongly with Aristocrat and with EGT and with Ainsworth and these type of brands, because the user sees them in our retail casinos, and they say, okay, I've seen this game, and we make sure that we show it to them online as well. And they can resonate to that game and say, okay, well, I've seen it, so I'm going to start playing on it. And the trends are constant, but the trends are not just in regards to the content, but they are also quite relevant to the technology and the advance in technology. Whereas 4 or 5 years ago, you would be focusing maybe a little bit more on desktop traffic. Today, it's just mobile. And the mobile is slowly evolving to forget mobile. Now it's all about having a good, high quality app. So these are trends that you also need to try and stay on top of. And I believe that having a localized team helps you maintain relevance, because you're reliant on that local team, and that local team is reliant on its users' feedback. So a lot of changes that we do, or some of the changes that we do, will come from feedback that we get from customers, and they're very open. I saw this game being advertised on social media, so we can then go see what that game was on social media, see who the influencer is, see which brand he is pushing, see how many likes and followers he has. Okay, this is quite an engaging post. This could be a next trend. Our customers have told us they like this game, so let's make sure that we can push this game, to offer promotions on this game, speak to the provider and see if they can give us a special branded game, or these types of things. So having your ear close to the ground is very, very important. I don't think we're a trendsetter, but I think that's more for the bigger brands to initiate that. But then we have to be able to act quickly to make sure that we remain relevant in the space that we're in.
First over the hill isn't always the best, right?
Correct.
As long as you're not the last.
Yes, exactly.
So then, with the switch to mobile and app, do you see that is there more of a youth dynamic with your demographics? And also, I guess I have to ask, like, where are you with the female players and the female bettors? Are you seeing anything different in these markets?
Yes, and that's actually something that's remained quite constant over the 2 decades that I've been in gaming. There are certain games that they like more than others, especially in Mexico, whether it be bingo, mainly playing slots, and then the male demographic, like the live dealer, the table games, and the crash games, much more. And you can see that also in the social networks or the influencers that are pushing these type of games, and the type of people that they are speaking to. But we don't really yet differentiate too much between male and female, because I still think there's a huge crossover if you're going to do a Venn diagram of the type of content that they want to consume or want to be entertained with, between male and female.
So no focus on any female sporting events or any particular female-driven marketing at this point.
No, but obviously female, especially football or soccer, in case there's any Americans listening, is hugely taken off. And Mexico, just to give an example, Caliente are huge advocates for the women's game, and they're doing amazing stuff for the women's game. We're just not in that position yet, because like I said, we're too small to medium size in terms of business, and all these opportunities are taken up. But we are sponsoring an event on the 8th of December, which is like a local football tournament. There should be like 1,000 people. We did try and open it up to women as well, but the uptake was just for men. So I would say Wimpot as a whole has a 55% split towards male than female customers. But then what's quite interesting is our retail establishments, they have more female customers than male customers. Maybe the male are generating more turnover because of the types of games they're playing, but they have more female. So we're still trying to understand fully where to put ourselves. Obviously, we don't want to be a male-only brand or a female-only brand, but we are still trying to understand who we are as a brand, where we position ourselves in the market, and who we're trying to appeal to.
Staying with trends, what are you seeing on the payment side?
For us, okay, so here we can maybe talk about more about the wider Latin America, but local payments are key. Credit card is very, very nice. Visa, MasterCard obviously is a must-have, but in Brazil, obviously, as I'm sure you're fully aware, but you can't work without Pix. In Mexico, you really cannot work with OXXO, but it's not just enough having them as a solution. I would recommend having as many direct integrations with these PSPs as possible, not reliant on aggregators. If you take OXXO, for example, if you go through an aggregator, then the settlement of the OXXO, for those that aren't aware, OXXO is like a 7-Eleven, a huge chain of convenience stores in Mexico. And if you go there and you make a deposit, sometimes it can take 24 hours for that deposit to be settled into your account. It's too long. It goes back to a point that we did talk about earlier, that the user today is aware of what it should be. And he understands that he wants quick settlements, whether that be in deposits or withdrawal. And that's why I think local payment partners, but direct integrations, fully understanding what your competitors are doing. And your competitors, I don't mean just iGaming, it could be e-commerce, banking websites. The payments is the most important thing that you need to have. And for us, we've hugely benefited by having local integrations and not going through third-party aggregators.
Do you see a trend with the payment type? You know, when you mentioned with OXXO, I presume, is that people going into store and using cash, or are you looking at people using SPAY, or what do you see as the primary funding?
SPAY is still the main one, which for us is obviously very, very good because you have zero chargebacks, and we have a direct integration with SPAY, and the retail is also popular, but for a different type of customer. It's more for those that have cash at hand, don't have access normally to a credit card or to a bank transfer. They have half an hour to spare, and OXXO is everywhere. They can just go downstairs or outside the house and go hand over 500 pesos and they can play. So the trends that we're seeing, it's difficult to say because it really is dependent on the user that you're talking about. The high VIPs, bank transfers, SPAY all day long, no problem. The kind of tier 2 customers, they're happy with credit cards, no problem. And then the bottom of the ladder, I'd say they're more cash based. And we also opened up cash deposits and withdrawals in our retail establishments as well. So again, if they're speaking to one of our Wimport Angels, they say, I don't really want to deposit via credit card, or I don't want to give my details, which is fair enough. Then we say you can go to our cashier, give them your account number, and you can deposit there. So it's about making your cashier convenient for your end user, but also secure. No one wants to be in a situation where they've given OXXO 500 pesos and have to wait 24 hours because the end user is going to be, where's my money? Where's my money? Where's my money? And the same with withdrawals. You shouldn't if you can take the money quickly, you should certainly be able to pay out the money quickly. And today the user expects it. It's not a foregone conclusion. The user expects to be paid as quickly as possible, and rightly so.
Of course, yeah, and we know that payouts is still a hot topic. I think that's globally. I've lost my train of thought because I saw a note come up. There's a note come in from Twitch, a question of they always ask about cryptocurrency. So is cryptocurrency being considered or already implemented as payment options by operators in the LATAM region? And how do you see its potential adoption in the evolving market?
Good question. So the issue there is, as per the regulation, you're not allowed to offer crypto in Mexico. Now, there are some brands out there that are offering it, but if we think about what we said at the beginning, our relationship with the regulator is so strong that we don't have that luxury of being able to kind of cut corners or take those risks. It was made very clear to us that crypto is not allowed in Mexico. We wouldn't even entertain the idea. But in the other regions in Latin America, where we have operators operating under the Curacao license, yes, crypto is getting much more popular. Of course, now with Trump coming in and the rise of Bitcoin, I think that will only increase. I think Latin America is a region that has been kept well up to date with what's going on in the crypto world. El Salvador is a great example of that. And not only is it sexy and trendy, but it's now also profitable. People have been sitting on cryptocurrencies for a long time, and now they're seeing all their stuff turning green. They want to be able to spend that money. So in the wider Latin American region, yes, crypto is important. It's great to have, has huge benefits. We're lucky to have a very, very good partner for our crypto solutions. In Mexico, I would love to have it because I see what other brands are doing and how they're using it. It potentially a huge, huge market. Sadly, Winpot will remain whiter than white.
I understand that, and that's certainly from NeoServe perspective. That's also, that's our challenge, and we want to stay on the right side of the regulators, for sure. I think I'm coming to the end of our questions. So, I guess one final question is like, what do you think? What do you think is going to have the biggest impact, ensuring that online gambling continues to grow safely and sustainably across the region?
LATAM offers a huge amount of opportunities, and again, not just Brazil, because I understand everyone is going to Brazil, but LATAM itself is a huge region where emerging markets, the infrastructures for internet penetration is huge. Mobile penetration is growing there a lot. So I still think slicing and dicing LATAM and taking each country on its own merit and being fully prepared with the foundations certainly from a compliance and a localization perspective, whilst having the ability to maintain the same pragmatic infrastructure that you have for your systems and your back office, I think is very, very important. I think by leveraging the cultural insights, building robust compliance systems, and investing in educating the customer, which is also something we discussed on, to help build that trust, not just in your brand, but also in iGaming as a whole. I think that will help the companies establish themselves as trusted leaders in this market that is forever changing.
That's fantastic. Zoltan, I know we're a bit early. I don't know if there are any other questions, or anything else that we haven't covered that it feels like we've done quite a wide. It feels like we've gone quite a wide range and gone full circle. Seems it was just the two of us, so I appreciate you.
No, it was my pleasure. I think also something to mention. Obviously, you have the World Cup coming to that region-ish in 2026. Mexico, Canada, and America. I think that's going to have a huge impact on Latin America in general. I think you'll see brands kind of levitating that way once they have enough time to realize that it's coming up sooner than you think. The World Cup in 26 is going to be a massive event over 3 huge different countries, very close to Latin America. So you're going to have the Latin American countries are going to be really, really involved in it. And that's why I think for us, it's very, very important to make sure you're as prepared as possible. And it goes back on to the points that we mentioned: local partners, full localization, payment methods, and making sure you don't tarnish the hard work that a lot of the good regulated brands are doing by any malpractices that may be out there.
I agree. It's going to be really interesting. I'm sat in New Jersey and only about 5 miles away from the MetLife Stadium. So,
Yes.
Could it be our time? Is it coming home, Yoni?
Well, we have a German manager, so it's a good start.
Right.
Can we do it? I don't know. We need to see. It's 2 years. I can't think about the football. Let me think about my brands first. But I will definitely be there. I'm excited. I'll be attending a lot of those games in Mexico. It should be a huge, huge event, not just for football, but also for our industry as well. And I think we need to embrace it. I think we need to make sure that we are prepared as much as can be and start thinking about it, as soon as possible.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Dalton.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And maybe also prepare for the Olympics, which is going to be also interesting. Having Canada and the US.
It was mentioned, but people just don't really bet. I love the Olympics, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great event, but I would never have a bet on the Olympics, and people don't. I know anyway. Don't
esports
really.
is going to be considered as one of the categories, so that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and esports in Latin America is very big. In Brazil, it's huge. They have global superstars there. In Mexico, it's picking up. It's still not one of our top 5 events, I would say, but it's definitely picking up with the live streaming. I didn't actually know that esports would be in the Olympics. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, they are going to do a test next year in Dubai or Saudi Arabia. I don't know exactly where, but they are adding it to the Olympics and taking out breakdancing.
Oh,
Oh, come on.
and what
All
games
right.
are they going to have though for
I
the
think
esports?
I think there probably would be more people betting on the breakdancing after this year's experience, right?
It's become a bit more famous.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there will be 4 other categories also added, some flag catching or something like that. Like it's similar to American football, but you need to take the flag from each other or something like that. It's yeah.
Well,
I don't know. That answers your question. We can't even keep up with it with the events. I don't know how you're going to price them up.
All right, guys. So thank you so much, and thank you for this historical edition of our Gaming America's quarterly meetups, because this is the last one after 4 years. We will be switching to different format next year. Don't be disappointed, you guys still have a place to come back to. But yeah, and yeah, thank you for our audience on link on YouTube. We reached over 2,700 at a certain point. So
well.
yeah, they probably
That's because of Sue.
yeah. Thank you so much,
Obviously,
Sue.
I'm a big draw.
She brings in the crowds.
All right, guys. So thank you so much. And yeah, we will watch out for the news and our social medias for the updates about 2025. Ioni, you can get back to celebrating.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and stay safe.
Thank you
Sue,
very much.
take good care and take care, everyone. See you back here in next year. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.
Happy holidays. Bye. Thank you very much.